When people talk about Christianity and Islam, the conversation often turns emotional very quickly. Some see the relationship as an eternal conflict, others as a tragic misunderstanding. But the truth is more complex than either side usually admits. The rivalry between Christianity and Islam did not begin as an inevitable clash of civilizations. It developed slowly, shaped by theology, politics, empire, fear, and power over the course of nearly 14 centuries. To understand how this rivalry began, we have to go back to the world into which Islam emerged. By the early 7th century, Christianity was already deeply established across the Roman and Byzantine worlds. It had councils, doctrines, emperors, armies, and institutions. Christianity was no longer a persecuted faith. It was an imperial religion tied closely to political authority. In contrast, Islam began as a small movement in Arabia, preaching strict monotheism in a region filled with tribal divisions and competing beliefs. From the very beginning, Islam did something unusual. It did not present itself as a completely new religion, but as a restoration. The Quran spoke of Abraham, Moses, and Jesus as true prophets who had been misunderstood or misrepresented over time. This alone created tension. Christianity viewed Jesus as divine, the Son of God, central to salvation. Islam respected Jesus deeply, but rejected his divinity. This theological difference was not small. It struck at the core of Christian identity. As Islam expanded rapidly after the death of Muhammad, the rivalry moved from theology into territory. Within a century, Muslim armies had taken control of regions that had been Christian for hundreds of years, including Syria, Egypt, and North Africa. For Christians living in these lands, Islam was no longer just a competing belief system, it was the ruling power. While many Christians were allowed to continue practicing their faith under Islamic rule, they now lived as minorities, paying special taxes and existing under different legal conditions. From the Christian perspective, this expansion felt like a shock. Territories once considered part of Christendom were now governed by a new religious authority. This loss was not only political, but psychological. It challenged the idea that Christianity was destined to dominate the world. Over time, resentment grew, and religious differences became symbols of political defeat. The rivalry intensified dramatically during the Crusades. Beginning in the late 11th century, European Christian powers launched military campaigns to reclaim Jerusalem and other sacred sites from Muslim control. These wars were fueled by religious devotion, but also by ambition, greed, and promises of power. For Muslims, the Crusades were invasions, foreign armies arriving with violence in the name of faith. For Christians, they were holy missions framed as acts of divine will. The Crusades left deep scars on both sides. Cities were massacred, trust was destroyed, and religious identities hardened. Even though the Crusades eventually failed to establish lasting Christian control, they permanently reshaped how Christianity and Islam viewed each other. Each side began to define itself in opposition to the other. As centuries passed, the rivalry evolved again, this time through empires. The Ottoman Empire became the most powerful Muslim state in history, controlling vast Christian populations in Eastern Europe and the Middle East. Meanwhile, European Christian powers expanded globally through colonization. The conflict was no longer just about faith, it was about dominance, trade, and control of the world. Religion often became a justification rather than the true cause. Political leaders used religious identity to mobilize populations, frame enemies, and legitimize wars. Christianity and Islam became banners under which empires marched, even when their actions contradicted their spiritual teachings. Yet throughout this long rivalry, coexistence also existed. Christians and Muslims traded together, studied each other's texts, translated philosophy and science, and influenced one another's cultures. Islamic scholars preserved and expanded Greek knowledge that later fueled the European Renaissance. In places like Spain, the Middle East, and parts of Africa, periods of relative harmony existed alongside tension. The rivalry also became deeply rooted in storytelling. Each side developed narratives that emphasized victimhood, betrayal, and divine favor. Over time, these stories hardened into identities passed down through generations. Many modern conflicts draw emotional power not from current events alone, but from memories, sometimes distorted, of past wounds. In the modern era, the rivalry took on new forms. European colonialism weakened much of the Muslim world, creating resentment and humiliation. Later, global politics, oil, borders drawn by foreign powers, and modern wars further complicated relations. Religion often became the language through which political anger was expressed. It's important to understand that Christianity and Islam are not monolithic. There is no single Christian voice, no single Muslim experience. Within both traditions, there have always been debates, reforms, disagreements, and movements toward peace. The rivalry was never purely between two religions. It was shaped by humans using religion in different ways. At its core, the 1400-year rivalry between Christianity and Islam is a story of shared origins and deep divergence. Both trace themselves back to Abraham. Both believe in one God. Both emphasize moral responsibility, prayer, and justice. And yet, their differences, especially around Jesus, authority, and revelation, created fault lines that history repeatedly widened. Understanding this rivalry is not about choosing sides. It's about recognizing how belief, power, and fear interact over time. When religion becomes tied to empire, it gains influence but loses innocence. The history of Christianity and Islam shows how spiritual ideas can inspire both compassion and conflict, depending on how they are used. Even today, echoes of this long rivalry shape global conversations, but history also shows something else, that periods of understanding were possible and therefore not impossible again. The past does not have to dictate the future, but ignoring the past almost guarantees repeating it. The story of Christianity and Islam is not just a story of rivalry. It is a story of humanity struggling to understand God, power, and itself across centuries of change. And until that struggle is understood honestly, the conversation will remain incomplete.